name's Ben.
My name's Carrie.
I'm Tracy.
I'm Amy.
My name's Andrew.
My name's Brad.
Julie.
Jeremy. My name's Roger.
My name is Adelaide.
Basically, I see the Occupy Adelaide movement as being part of a global movement, and that movement I would broadly categorise as being anti-neoliberal, basically against the privatisation of essential assets and against against the privatisation of essential assets, against essentially profit and the market dictating everything from economic policy, foreign policy, everything essentially.
Occupy Adelaide means many things to me, not least a democratic gathering of people who are actually coming together to discuss some of the issues that are present in society and ways in which to deal with them. We are occupying together here in order to get a message across to the public and gather further support for people in their own interests. So there are many different things we could actually talk about, but beginning with democratic process actually.
What it means to me is the people like the big banking corporations that get a $5 million payout or a $5 million handshake while there's people waiting for hip surgery, while there's overcrowding in schools and the schools are closing, while the roads are falling apart, while people in the mental health system have been falling through the cracks. Why is this allowed to happen? Why are people allowed to have a $5 or $6 to $7 million payout from these big corporations and there's such a divide? I don't understand how we allowed this to happen.
For me, I'm here because I see a lot of social injustice in the world and just injustice all over, and I'd like to see that fixed. I think we need to be heard, and that is what this means.
What the Occupy movement really means to me is, I think it's just the social immune system really waking up and realising that some of the parts of our system are flawed, they're sick, they're dying, and this is what you can see around you is the immune system of the common populace just saying, hold on, something's wrong, we need to fix this. And I think there's a whole bunch of systemic problems that we're trying to address. It means a whole bunch to me.
Well, it means that Adelaide is awakening to a greater vision of how we live in our world. So, Occupy Adelaide has jumped onto a movement that has been happening since obviously Occupy Wall Street. Occupation of Wall Street is about addressing the disparity of power, wealth, and the needs situation over the planet. All people have the same needs. Some override their needs over others, and it becomes greeds. Mostly you'll find them in corporations that are played out through the stock markets for stacking over others, so they end up with this mass accumulation or monopolizing the greater resource base of most people that we could have as needs. So Occupy Adelaide is a part of many cities recognising the disparity in that and finding a way through to balance and bring an equilibrium or justice back into the fairness for all.
For me, it's linked into the international movement, and that's really important. So it's an opportunity to challenge the status quo. I think that's really important for me, and it's an opportunity to do some building of democracy from below. I identify as an anarchist, social anarchist, so for me it's around building the new world in the shell of the old. Now, you'd be aware from the interviews you do, we've got really diverse people with all sorts of things that they identify to. So for me, very much it's about having an opportunity to look at participatory democracy as well.
Well, to me it's a movement supporting Wall Street, supporting Americans who are struggling at this very moment, supporting the Australians that are struggling at this moment, and anyone around the world which is living in poverty and are struggling against corporate greed, taking away their savings, superannuation, and basically this destroying of our economies through corporate greed.
Occupy Adelaide, for me, is a vehicle and a platform that I've been waiting years, probably 3 years, 3+ years, of voicing, of me, basically I started researching the financial system and researching society and all the social structures that dominate all our lives, 99%, probably even more than that. And it started with me watching this film called The Zeitgeist Movement, and I was just I've never done any activist related activities in my life, and this isn't what that's about. I just saw as an opportunity for me to finally put the money where my mouth is, and because I've been preaching about this for years, and finally there's a way for me to actually physically be the change that I want to see.
To me, it's a bunch of people that they may be joining in with the rest of the world, but they've got their own ideals. And I've read this thing, I've seen it happen. Every day I've seen people here, and to me it just seems like people want everyone to get the same chances, the same happiness. I don't know. They just want everyone to be happy, and that's a nice thing.
I guess the Occupy movement is relevant to Australia in the same way that it's relevant to the 85 other countries that it's in the 905 cities across the world, in that wherever there's money, essentially, you have the people who've accumulated a lot of it with the ability to bend politicians to their will, to dictate the terms of people's lives, essentially. And so that's why the resistance to that phenomenon is as international as it is.
The Occupy movement's relevant to Australia for probably very similar reasons that it's relevant everywhere in the world. There is unequal distribution of wealth. There is the placing of corporate needs or greeds, perhaps, over human and environmental needs in much of the world, certainly not least here in Australia. And there is a lack of representation of actual public opinion in the government system, unfortunately. A lot of us feel that we are not being accurately represented and our needs are not being sufficiently met.
It's very relevant to Australia. Look at Qantas, the recent Qantas dispute, where he gave himself a 17% pay rise, and the very conservative pilots union he blasted when they went on strike. The engineers went on strike because the Qantas had sent all of their mechanical updating and everything like that overseas to Indonesia. Is it Indonesia? I think it was but they sent it overseas. Which, how do we know their safety plans when Qantas have had a very good safety plan? And why have the baggage handlers had their wages frozen for 3 years? And he gives himself a 17% pay rise.
I believe we have things here a lot better than most places, but we still can fix things up and probably lead the world in this revolution. We have the ability to and the opportunity in a place like Australia to do that. But Australia still needs to get on board with getting religion out of politics and things like that. The banking system, how about we tax them, and that would solve a lot of financial problems in the world, things like that.
In Australia, we really benefit from tax loops. We benefit from negative gearing, which is illegal in most other countries. Due to these, especially negative gearing has also caused a housing bubble. That's why it's so hard to sell houses at the moment. It's very similar to what's happened in the States, and I think if we continue down the same path of negative gearing and future tradings and options tradings, things like this, like high-risk banking maneuvers, then we're going to go the same way as the US, which is a further recession, harder hit. The only thing supporting us, I think, at the moment is our three largest industries, which are mining, finance, and defence. I don't think I need to tell you that they're pretty much as bad as you can get in terms of sustainability, ecology, and welfare of people.
The movement, see, also, okay, occupation is actually a very new part of the humanities struggle. In Australia, we recognise an injustice that took place 220 odd years ago when a false flag occupation took place in this land, and the Cook's planting of a flag saying terra nullius, corporatising a false sovereignty over an original recognised sovereignty, people on land with law and culture and ways and means of sustainably sharing for all and managing those resources for a long-term future. A change took place with a false sovereignty, a crown claiming, this sovereignty is theirs, and so this movement of occupation across the world is recognising that disparity of sovereign rights, which is rights for all, and claiming it for a few under corporate manipulations or corporate involvements in the government of democracies, which are supposed to serve all people fairly and evenly, and unfortunately they don't hear the people's voice from down below because they get dominated by people, but corporate interests, which corporations now have the rights of a person. They don't live, they don't breathe, they don't sweat, but they actually have been given rights, same as rights of people. That was way back. So Australia has a part to play in that bigger disparity of power, disparity of fair share of all wealth, because we are a very rich nation. We are recognised as one of the first world nations, even though it's all one world. Even though we have original sovereign people living in so-called third world standard living conditions. It's all that sort of stuff. So there is a lot of relevance that Australia can play in this occupation movement because we have massive opportunity, and I feel we have one of the hugest abilities to responsibility in setting that imbalance right correctly.
Look, the same issues to varying degrees are relevant internationally, where if you look at the 99%, 1%, even though the 1% is a small percentage again, we know that it's probably 1/10 to 1% is, incredibly wealthy. But it's not just about wealth, it's about inequality, it's about injustice. I'm actually an environmentalist and an ecologist, so for me it's around people, animals and the planet, and having a voice for the most marginalised elements in our society, who are people who are marginalised, animals who don't have a voice, in the earth that doesn't have a voice.
The Occupy movement is relevant to Australia because we're having government make laws for specific companies to come and mine all our resources and send them overseas, creating jobs for us but making huge profits for the actual corporations. So what we're having is governments basically changing the rules just so companies can make profits. And also it's relevant to us because a lot of Australians are only casually employed. This brings an issue with job security. Like everyone should be able to feel secure in their jobs. Where if you've got casual work, you don't know if you're going to get the next shift. That your employer can call you up 1 hour before work and say, hey, sorry, we don't need you today. People need job security. So basically having a huge casual workforce is not good in Australian people's interest because they do not have the security that they have in other countries.
The Occupy movement is as relevant to Australia as it is relevant to Ethiopia or even Antarctica. The Occupy movement is addressing the crises that this planet is currently faced with, and it is all rooted in the one cause, and it's the old saying, money is the root of all evil. And that couldn't be more true today. The capitalist system used to be useful, 60, 70 years ago. It had its place. We have now become addicted to it, and it is accelerating its damage upon us as social humans and as spirits, as spiritual beings as well. We are connected to this planet. We are symbiotically connected to this planet. We need the sun to survive. We need water, and we need food. And we are destroying the planet in the name of profit. Profit, regardless of what the cost is basically the rule.
To Australia, okay. Now, there's a sign over there that says no room for racism, and I love Australians. Most of my friends, they're great, but a lot of them are racist, and racism is prevalent in Australia. But that's what I think the Occupy movement is so relevant to Australia, because we're trying to copy the bigger people, but we're racist as well. There's two factors there.
I guess political group is kind of broad. I'm not part of any political parties. I would loosely describe myself as an anarchist or a socialist, or basically somebody who thinks that our economy should be... Yep. Basically, I describe myself as somebody who thinks that our economy should be run democratically. That's what I mean by a socialist. Somebody who thinks, the decisions of what gets made, how it gets produced, should be decided democratically, not be decided because one person is the boss, so there. I describe myself as an anarchist because I'm somebody who's generally skeptical of hierarchy, and
Yeah, that's probably a difficult question for me to answer, because the group that I am affiliated with doesn't describe itself as political. It describes itself as having no political, religious or corporate agenda. So I'm actually affiliated with the Zeitgeist movements, but we are a movement for sustainability, and we advocate a cultural mindset shift. So we actually are in pursuit of many things, but we're not in pursuit of any changes within our current political system. We're thinking on a much more macro level than that.
No, I don't have any affiliation with any political group, which allows me the freedom to vote for whoever I want. It doesn't bother me who is a member of what party. If they are working well in my community, I will vote for them.
No.
I think political groups are kind of pointless. I mean, I understand law. I've had to study a bit of economics, and I understand public policy. And I think if there were laws that were going up that were relevant to me, I'd want to vote on those policies. I don't want to vote for someone who may or may not represent my views. I'd like to vote directly for the policies I want to see, and I think the rest of Australia, the rest of the world would like to see that also.
It's hard to know what a political group is. I have involvement in many groups, many networks. Through my hat, I wear many hats. This one is one I've been wearing for a few months now. It involves the word peace, which some people believe is a political movement. It actually is a freedom movement, recognising that we've always been at peace, and that recently there have been agendas playing out that have brought war or breach of peace into our collective reality. So I work through peace convergence, just peace. I work through community organisations like community gardens that I'm involved in. They're political organisations, I suppose. But basically this movement is a community, all people of humanity coming together as one voice. And so some people would call this a political group. So I'm a part of Occupation, and that's a political group.
No, as an anarchist I have no affiliation with a political party at all. I think the political system, parliamentary politics absolutely sucks. But social anarchism is very much about people and engagement and genuine freedoms that don't impose on others.
No, I don't have absolutely none. I support a few, but I have no close connection with them. I believe their policies. Some police I don't believe in many political groups, so I would say that no, I do not follow or am a member of any.
I have absolutely no affiliation with any group whatsoever, no political party. I don't believe in the political system, and I don't really believe in joining any group. I don't see this as a particular group. I see this as a global group. We are a global people. We are a global family. We are all the same.
No, I'm just a kid.
Well, I guess I don't really see this as a protest in the traditional sense. I was saying to somebody before, I think that Occupy is more analogous to the union movement in that it covers a bunch of different issues, and it's basically more like a meeting place that people come together and decide what issues are affecting them and how we can act together to change them. So it's not as though I think that there's one issue and we'll solve that and then we'll all go home. In the same way, when the union movement won the 8-hour day, it wasn't like, oh okay, no more unions, we'll all go home now. Yeah.
Now, what I really hope to achieve as compared with what I expect to achieve, I'd really, I could speak about utopian ideal all day, but what I have started to concentrate my hopes around as regards this particular movement, this particular occupation, is a hope that we could take some steps towards more public participation in decision making in this country. I would like to see steps taken towards a referendum type system in which the people can represent their own needs and actually have those needs met. So less of the emphasis on corporate lobbying in order to get decisions made and actions taken, and more genuine discussion with the people over how to meet our needs.
I don't think an initial outcome will be present from this protest. I think it is an ongoing thing. It is a very grassroots movement, and it's going to be like a snowball effect. The more people are going to get to understand why we're doing this, they're going to understand the issues why we're doing this. The more people get educated, the more people get on board. This isn't there's no short timeline to this. This is an ongoing thing. It may take a year, it might take 2 years.
A big one for me, I think the key to unlocking most problems in the world would be education. I think by being here we're informing a lot of people about that what they hear in the news and in the paper and things like that are tainted, very much so, and that things aren't going as well as they appear to be, and they're just sort of being told a lot of lies.
As a result of this protest, I hope to raise awareness about the Occupy movement and about the whole idea that people are suffering really badly overseas. Whether or not it may seem fine here, everything may seem really hunky-dory, there's even homeless people here. These are people starving here, and I think that's pretty disgusting. I just hope to raise awareness and maybe get something out of it. Maybe a Robin Hood tax as a start.
Well, first of all, I don't see it only as a protest. I see it as an occupation of a regional of the first ways of cultural and spiritual and life values expression. So my expression is that we are pro-peace, we are pro-human needs, we are planetary sustainability, life support systems that sustain humanity and all life into the deep future. But that makes some people think that I'm a protester against the corporate greed or the war agendas, this type of thing. I suppose that is your own way of seeing the same question. Depends on which side of the question you sit on. I say I'm pro-freedom, I'm pro-prosperity for all, I'm pro-peace for the world. Some people think that makes me a war protester, or anti-war protester, I don't know what all the words are. But yeah, it depends how you see it. But so the question again was, what do I hope to achieve?
What outcomes do you hope to achieve as a result of
Which
this
are
protest?
those outcomes that we go back to the sense of original life values, life cultural, like spiritual awakened, like alignment, I call that. We're in our true alignment. We are walking our true destiny, our true future, where we are all at peace, we all feel free to move freely wherever we are, where we have enough for all, where we can appreciate all life's beauty in the creation without feeling some threatened we might lose them off the species. There's all this sort of stuff is, we hope for it's almost like a utopian dream to embody itself in our living reality. So yeah, freedom, basically.
Look, just raising awareness. Being here in public spaces, for me it's about non-petitioned protesting. I know that there was a general agreement to go down a process of seeking permission to protest. That's not something that I agree with. I don't believe that we need to ask permission to be... The only people we need to ask permission for are the Kaurna people, in actual fact, and that's just a personal view.
I would like to see greater awareness for the people, not just here but everywhere in the world, that poverty, governments need to step in and stop poverty. They need to do things creatively to actually teach communities that are, especially in Africa and Asia, that need the help. Teach them how to actually better their environments, better their way of life, sustainable living, instead of relying on handouts all the time, and also to bring a bit more control on the financial sector, which is controlling a lot of the wealth in the world, which is contributing to the poverty levels.
The outcomes I wish to see from this, and I'm pretty much certain that they'll come about regardless of whether this movement continues or not, and that is that just around the corner there's going to be a global financial crisis that'll make the last one look like a walk in the park. And I think when that happens, you are going to see hundreds of people out here, not just dozens. And that's what I hope to see, and I think spreading the word. We are at the early stages, baby steps, and it's all about spreading the word.
This protest, the best thing that could possibly happen is that the powers that be in the world realize this is wrong. They decide, you know what, this money is stupid. It's based around outdated, theories, outdated methods of doing things. Things should just be for everyone, and it's not that hard to make a sustainable world that's enjoyable for all of us. They'd rather not, because they can make more profit if they don't do that. It's wrong.
I am currently employed. Somebody recently asked that of an occupier in New Zealand, and he said, well, some people spend their time playing video games, shopping, drinking. We spend our spare time trying to save the world. Sorry about that. And I guess that's what I would say to people who question whether we're employed or not. It's not really relevant, and it just shows to me that that person doesn't really think much.
I am currently employed, absolutely, yes. I work at the University of Adelaide, professional and continuing education.
I have my own business, yes.
Yes.
Yes, currently am.
I'm occupied in an occupation that probably doesn't come under some people's recognition of work, employment. I'm employed in many, many jobs. Some involve working in communities and gardens, where I live sometimes on the Sunshine Coast. We have Karoi Community Garden. That's employment, but I don't get necessarily monetary return. I get satisfaction through return on being a part of the shared growth that I can share the abundance of. I work on a community called a sanctuary up on the Sunshine Coast, where we help build each other's homes, so Habitat for Humanity. We don't get paid money for it. We get the satisfaction of living in a shelter that's solid, where we can share space together. We have to look at, so there's plenty of work that I do, jobs where I help those that are impoverished or underprivileged or pressured to a corner margin, and help them have a bit more understanding how they can find their own voice and empowerment. I speak through many forums, which are like work, speaking about peace issues, how the war is actually displacing. So there's plenty of work I do, whether that means I'm employed. I think I'm very employed. 24/7 I'm on this job, really. This life, I'm actually calling, when people say get a job, I actually say I don't need a job, I've got a life, it's pretty full, thanks. So that's my understanding of employment. Yeah, I'm employed.
I am. I've worked full-time virtually all my life. I'm now at the latter end of my career in advocacy. I work for people with intellectual disability in an advocacy role, and have had a successful professional career in disability services.
Yes, I am. I'm currently employed on a 30-hour contract and I'm rostered 45 plus hours a week. So you can see how I'm part of the 99% not getting paid for what I work.
Currently I work between 38 hours to 50 hours a week at the Royal Adelaide Hospital as a medical orderly, and I've been doing that for 5 years. And before that I've just worked in all kinds of other jobs. I've been working since I was 17 and paying taxes. Actually no, 15. 15. McDonald's.
I have no job. I've just finished year 12 and I'm trying to go to uni next year.
As far as I understood, the council was asking us to move to the next square over. I suspect because the Crown Plaza, which is directly over there, probably had a problem with us being here. From what I can gather, there's general consensus that it will be not that big a deal to move to that part of the park. So I don't think that, there will be much resisting going on. I can foresee a situation later on where perhaps the movement is a bit bigger, starting to make some changes, and we get situations like we've seen in Sydney or Melbourne where police are violently attacking protesters, in which case I can see the possibility of resistance being a bit higher.
Right, that's the first I've heard of that actually. We're not actually scheduled for eviction per se. No, what happened was that we were given an eviction notice earlier in the week. We've gone through some steps in the process to actually submit a request to the council for public assembly, which is what this is according to the council law. They are going to deliberate over their decision. We submitted that request yesterday, and they're deliberating over their decision on Tuesday. We shall expect to hear that decision on Tuesday, if not Wednesday. So a notice for eviction, we can't actually predict that at present, but if there is eviction, we will discuss together at a General Assembly what decisions we will take. Me personally, I really feel that I'm not ready to make a decision on that personally without consulting the group, because one of the things that I find really valuable from the process of General Assembly is whatever opinion I went in with is not necessarily the opinion I walk out with. I really value the process of discussion and development, and my opinions actually change through that process. So if what we're talking about here is the police are going to come and arrest me if I resist leaving, no, I personally can't take that risk. I'm not an Australian citizen. I can't take that risk.
Damn right I will.
Me personally, I would hope, I would like to resist. I think this is very important.
Well, I don't think we really need to resist. The council seems to be quite supportive, which is completely unheard of among all the other occupiers around the world. So if they're offering on Olive Branch and they're offering us marquees, they're offering to support us, then I think we should take it. Let's move over there and let's start something real. Let's start educating the people about the realities of what we've got.
I have resisted many evictions, not just here and now in Adelaide. I've had to face off eviction. Holding freedom space is very threatening to those that actually feel we should be bowing down to their rule, and I don't actually bow down to false authority. I recognise original sovereignty in this land. I know all laws in this land are written on the lie of Terra Nullius, that stated that the Crown has rule, you can't stay there because our bylaws, well I say your laws, many of them. So I resist quite a lot, with full respect I resist. Sometimes that makes a very solid stand where we might have to take to a tree, find hard equipment to lock on to position so we can hold and maintain that resistance over a longer time. Often the might of they that think they're right comes and wipes you out. It's hard to resist under those sort of oppressive regimes when they've got guns, when they've got any muscled men that want to rip you out of a situation. So I resist as long as I can make a solid stand without being violent to them. I'll speak truth while I'm in that engaging point, and the truth will come through firing fast, hopefully seek into some of the thick consciousnesses that are out there so they enlighten up a bit. Anyway, yeah, I would resist. If others would, it's hard to resist on your own. If we have an affinity for others to stand together, I stand with those that want to make that stand. Yeah, that would make that stand, and we'll stand as long as we can.
Look, I'm not actually on site anymore. I'm not actually, here. I think the occupation is an idea that's time has come. So, it'll play out. I'm not that fussed about, whether it's a physical site here or what it is. I think it's an idea that's time has come, and you don't kill an idea.
Will depend if I'm not at work or not, being 45 hours a week. I think I would, if there's no real good reason for the eviction, if there's not a good reason for it, I will really consider staying through it. If the council comes and say, like, this is like we're going to start treating everybody to the same rules that they're going to try and put on us, sure, I will actually go. But if they're going to say, oh no, this group of people, we're going to take a side, but we're going to leave this group of people over here to do what they like, then no, then yes, I will resist.
I will, you know what, I don't know. I live my life on a minute by minute basis. I live in the moment, and I'll decide when that moment comes. I don't know, I can't really answer that for you at the moment. But I don't know if they will actually evict us, We are seeking a permit, and I'm thinking it's going to be successful. And we'll just move down, just across the road, and we'll keep it going.
I'm here more often than you guys are, but I would recommend that they let you guys stay. You're not causing any harm. It's a victimless crime,